coming up on The
It's
Source.
great that there's downtown development is going to go down, but there's a barrier for people getting them. Yep.
Which is something that we really, really, really need. Now, people will push back on you when they say, well, what you mean you don't need that many police? I agree. If you have the services, we wouldn't need as much policing.
Yeah, I'm not saying we don't need it at all,
Right.
but we don't need as much. More families need supports and services. I'm sorry, that's why it's violence. There's no investment in our community.
Especially in the 5th district.
Yeah, okay.
And now they feel some type of loyalty.
Right. Well, that's how it was with Trump. All you got to do is look at the whole
I talk to most of the city council people. Most of them are like, but the administration, I don't care about what the administration think. What do you think?
I did it because it's important that the city council be women and men of their word. This is Pastor Curry, pastor of the Ye Zion Fair Baptist Church, Wilmington's most exciting church, the church that love ya and ain't a thing you can do about it. Today with Coffee with Curry, we're going to continue to really try to highlight our source show. We really want to make sure that the Wilmington community get a chance to really see. So we're doing an early show as well as the regular time that we're on the air because we want you to be aware of the things that are going on. And today's show is very strong, and I want you to really see it for yourself. Tell people that it comes on at 5 o'clock every Sunday. But we've been showing it during the Coffee with Curry during these last few weeks because we wanted to just let people know, because some people watch, some people don't watch because they didn't know it came on, and we didn't get a lot of publicity before time or after. So we just want to let you know that we'll be back with Coffee with Curry to give you some more shows. But for the last couple of weeks, we just want to continue to show you what we call the source. And it is a good show with Kobe Owens as well as Renee Darby and myself. We talk about the local news. We talk about some of the things that are going on in the nation, as well as what's happening in our city council. Enjoy the show today. Good evening. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
Renee Darby.
And welcome to The Source. Also, Shanae, welcome back. Last week we were told, Kobe said it about you, was out saving the world. So we're glad you're back now to deal with the issues that are before us. This week is really going to be very interesting because there's so much going on, even in the city. And even though the papers are reporting that there's only been 4 murders in the city, 3 less than last year this time, 1 is too many. But I do want to start today by talking about the 35-year-old, which was this Wednesday, who was shot fatally in the Brandywine Village neighborhood.
Yeah, so just a little more background about that. Where it took place, there is a school right across the street from it. An alert went out to the parents and everything, and it actually, because of the time it took place, it delayed dismissal. So the kids weren't able to be dismissed until about like 4:30. But this a man named Thaddeus Blackman was shot in the head 4 times right across the street from Urban Promise Academy. And again, this stems from gun violence that we're seeing in that area, but also all throughout the city of Wilmington. But this one, the alert kind of went out right away. The community started talking about it right away. We didn't have to wait for a police report or for the Delaware Online to put out a
Yeah, and it goes to the critical need for that, because that's actually my district. So me and council member Xanthia Oliver, we share North Market Street. That's our boundary line. So it happened on her side, my side. And when we're looking at that neighborhood or that specific strip, There's a lot of issues with people with mental health, substance abuse. There was a tent city right down the street there, and a lot of people who were the city blocked it off with a fence, but a lot of people who were living there still go there.
Mm.
So if you go down that, I think it's Gordon Street. If you go down Gordon Street, you'll still see all of them there, sitting there talking, doing whatever they do. So it's really critical that we're putting services there. And currently, there's a group called Teams.
Mhm.
They were on North Market Street. They got another big building over in the east side, but they're looking to renovate the space that they had before. They still have it in their possession to be able to provide the services to the people there. Recently, I had connected with them with another program. They offer showers. They have a mobile shower and laundry room for people who need it. Just those basic services being able to help people. I think that's where you see crime decrease. I really don't believe in a lot of policing. I don't think policing helps. Policing actually increases crime. More policing. We need to provide more services for communities, more services for people in the neighborhood. If we're not providing services, we're not investing. I mean, development on North Market Street. I've been yelling for development for 3 years. We need money. Can we please put money in the budget for North Market Street? Can North Market Street get money? I'm constantly told no. Right, but you see investments downtown where you have Crosby Hill Apartments and the project cost $62 million, but North Market Street has no investment. Right? If you don't put investment there, you're going to get crime. I don't know why people are shocked.
Yeah.
But that is going to be changing soon. There's a bill that's been drafted and filed in the General Assembly that changes the designation of a downtown development district, where that extra funds could be placed for development in those areas. It's going to go all the way to 30th Street and extend it out. So a part of that money, right? And that money comes from the State Housing Authority. But it's like a rebate if you develop an area and everything. Now, on our end of things, we have to hold them accountable for who's actually doing the projects in the area, right? So, in the original rebate, in which Governor Markell created back in 2015, it's supposed to be affordable housing a part of the development if you're doing real estate, commercial, if you're doing housing, developing housing. It's supposed to be a portion of that is supposed to be set aside for affordable housing. That's what we want to make sure is done. And actually, we've been asking and working with the state to try to get that percentage increased for those type of projects. Now, if you look at it throughout the entire state, the number one receiver of these funds is Bacini Paulin, who's been doing development downtown, but they have not been doing a lot of affordable housing, which is a critical part of that.
Who looks over that? I'm sorry, let me cut you. Who looks over that to make sure that they are going to be doing some affordable housing?
So that's where the State Housing Authority comes in, as well as the General Assembly comes in, the senators and the representatives whose district this is in, to hold them accountable as well too. But then also it's good to have voices on city council when it's in their district as well.
Yeah, so with the downtown development, the majority of my district is already downtown development. So as he said, it's going to get extended out all the way to North Market Street. So there are barriers to businesses having, so we can implement something. We can say something is available, but if there's barriers to people getting it and we're not addressing that, it sounds good that we're going to extend it, but are we really providing are we really helping businesses, small landlords who are on that strip really have access to downtown development? You have to have the money up front and they reimburse you later. People don't have most people don't have that.
Even trying to get the loans.
Even trying to get the loans could be hard. And then I do one thing for the investment on North Market Street that has been, and there's about 2-3 projects funded by True Assets Capital. So Senator Darius Brown gave millions of dollars to True Assets Capital for businesses to be able to develop on North Market Street. So that's one thing I could say that happened, but it's not happening on the grand scheme or scale that it should. So there's small things happening, but the same way how they did the riverfront, how they did downtown, where it was a mass development, not a little bit here, we're going to give y'all a little bit of this, we're going to give y'all, so we have these great programs, but then don't address the barriers. That's problematic for me. No, we need to do a real investment into North Market Street. And it's great that there's downtown development is going to go down, but there's a barrier for people getting it.
Yeah, and I think that the city has to play some role, in some of its budget needs to also be invested. Because what happens is if the state see that you are invested in a certain community, I believe then they'll say, well, and we can continue to pour into this. If there is no real movement on the administration side to help invest in that area, like you talk about downtown, there's a true investment.
That's a true it's not a little
But it wasn't
here,
just the
a little
city. It
there.
was all three levels of government put in money for that, and all three need to put in money for this as
Yeah.
well too. Now I know with the Small Business Administration, there has been difficulty, especially for Black-owned businesses, getting funds. I think Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester has done a good job helping others. So if those small businesses do need help in the area, reaching out to her office, they've done a really good job of helping move those applications and get the funds in hands for people. But the county government needs to step up, and the city needs to step up as well too.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'm kind of glad, even though we initially was talking about the murder, and I think the way you did that segue to just say, these things is going to continue to happen as long as there's no true investment. And that's really what we were talking about for those of you who are listening. Yes, we did start off on talking about the murder that occurred with 35-year-old, but Shanae has shared, and I was complimenting her before we came on the air, that she tries to provide the services, and a lot of people who can care less about services criticize her because she believed that in order to lift the people, you have to lift them for real. You have to give them the services that are needed in order for them to be lifted. And one of the things that you talked about is the shower, the mobile shower. You talked about the laundry thing. They don't have money. They don't have and then also the mental care,
Yeah, yep.
which is something that we really, really, really need. Now, people will push back on you when they say, well, what you mean you don't need that many police? I agree. If you have the services, we wouldn't need as much policing.
Yeah, I'm not saying we don't need it at all, but we don't need as much.
Right. And even with the policing we have, it's still happening. So therefore, let's increase our services. So I really thank you for that. And we also had a fatal shooting last Saturday where a 47-year-old was shot. And the 14-year-old girl, she was in the hospital last Saturday. You have any updates on that, anybody?
Yeah, so that was in the 1800 block of West 3rd Street. It did involve a 14-year-old girl. The 47-year-old man was fatally shot. She is still in the hospital, but she's in stable condition. There has been no additional information about what's going on in that case.
Okay. Well, we want to just make sure that we're keeping our eyes on it. And speaking of all that we've talked about today, I do want to also add to this whole violence that's going on is the woman who was charged for critically stabbing a friend or a person. She got into a fight with a gentleman and she stabbed him. This is my issue with this, not putting blame on anybody. Why is it that our first result to any anger is violence? Whether it be the stabbing, whether it be the shooting? Why? I just don't understand. I mean, if we have a couple of minutes to just talk about it.
Like why we're violent?
No, why is it, in your opinion, that the very first reaction is to stab someone, shoot someone, and they got into this argument, and I don't know all the details, okay? But I'm noticing an uptick in whether it be shooting, whether it be stabbings, whatever. It's just such violence. Why so much violence?
I think historically, like I think it stands for a lot of things for me. Historically, we always lived in a violent country.
Mm-hmm.
We were brought here violently. White supremacy is violent to us in all sorts of ways. And then when you top on other like poverty, childhood trauma, not knowing how to regulate your emotions. Like we ask kids to regulate their emotions and most adults can't even do that, right?
Yeah.
So then you have all of that mixture of trauma, childhood, historical, systemic oppression, all of those things bottled up into a group of people who have been pigeonholed into a certain neighborhood to live amongst each other. They're angry.
Yeah.
Historically, systemically, currently, now they have to go like poverty, and your brain isn't your body isn't even at its 100% because of so much trauma that you go through. So your response to things becomes violent because you're constantly in survival mode.
Yeah.
Like so that's what I think of, like the mental, the trauma piece when I think of it.
Some people just don't get that piece you just said, that you're in a constant survival mode. Because when you're in a survival mode, you're doing whatever it takes to survive. And if it means shoot somebody else, shoot them. If it means steal from somebody else. So do you think that is probably what's missing, even with some of our politicians who are representing communities, that people are doing some of the things they're doing because they're just trying to survive?
Yeah, and I think it has to just come with a lot of reprogramming and like a lot of you just got to be in a space where if you could take people out of poverty,
Mhm.
you take people out of these traumas and help them heal. For me, like I always think of it like a mental health thing, like that you can recover and build resilience and have those things, but we don't. People stay in the same neighborhoods for how long? You know, there's gun violence, people selling drugs. You don't know if you can walk down the street and get stabbed. You don't know like you're constantly on survival mode.
Wow.
And that puts you to be violent now because I have to reprogram myself too because there's certain triggers or words or ways people look at me and I think, oh, they want to fight or something bad is about that. I'm being so honest and I have to reprogram myself to say, Shanae, no, you don't have to think that way anymore, right? You're in a safe environment, right? You don't have to think like that. So I think it's really important that we're not teaching kids that how to handle trauma. We're not providing more mental health services need to happen in school systems. More families need supports and services. I'm sorry, that's why it's violence. There's no investment in our community.
Yeah, that's something that as we get ready to go into this whole 2024 election cycle with a lot of major positions that are going to be open, we really got to start bringing it to the forefront. That what are we going to do with the mental health of our
And then even thinking, how do we get guns in our community? We don't make them.
Yeah, well, and for all these national shootings that are happening, and for the Republicans to be and I'm not even gonna just blame them because there are other people sneaking
There's
out
some Democrats too.
who are stop talking. You're a Democrat,
On paper.
but you're gonna get yourself in a lot of trouble. But I think sometimes all too often, and I shouldn't say in trouble because you cannot get in trouble for what you just shared.
Yeah, I can't. The Democrat Party can't do nothing to me.
But I think also that we really need to really talk about the guns that are happening because they are being put into communities for us to kill each other and to harm each other. And I'm a true believer in that very strongly. So basically, do you have anything you want to add to that, or are you all right with that? I want to end this segment with just talking a little bit about something y'all are already start talking about, and that is that there's going to be a grand opening of the Butchuni Holland group for the Cosby Hill, I think they call it, apartments in Wilmington. They spent $62 million. Now, you said all three levels of government, all three entities were supportive in or did they
No,
pay?
I was just talking about development down.
Oh, just downtown.
No.
Well, so $62 million was invested in this new 11 floor, 3 different building, and the rent is $1,700 to $2,800 a month.
That's
I
double
don't
my
think
mortgage.
I was gonna say, I don't think that's a part of the affordable housing. While, and I want to make sure I put a disclaimer out there, I do believe, and I think Kobe, you say this quite often, I do believe in investment in whatever community. Our biggest argument is we have a growing population of people who are in poverty. And the city, if you want to kill some of the crime, if you want to kill some of the things that are going on, you're going to have to invest in affordable housing too.
Yeah, I'm a true believer that you cannot a city cannot live and thrive without development, but you can do it in a way without displacement and gentrification.
Yeah.
You can do it in a way that creates more affordable housing. If you look at the state already, we're almost at 20,000 units in the whole of how many affordable housing units we're short, right? You look at the city of Wilmington, and that disparity is growing every single day. You have an apartment that costs $1,700 for a studio or 1 bedroom. $1,700.
Yeah.
And what does that do? Well, all the other mom and pop landlords around the area, well, they're going to raise their rent to compete with that, right? So now the person who maybe had a $850 a month apartment, there was no renovations to it, there was no nothing to it. Now their landlord's taking it up $200-$300. And I'm not just making this up. These are people I've talked to. These are people who've come into my office begging for help. It's happening all across the city of Wilmington, and there's nothing being done about it.
And there's no rule on how much you can raise rent or anything like that?
No.
Should be.
So there's a legislation that probably has been submitted, and it's probably being drafted on exactly that conversation.
So that means if I'm a landlord here in the city, I can charge you $500 if you move in, and then whenever that lease is up, the next time I could charge you $1,200, and there's no rule against me going.
So in the landlord code, there is a certain cap, like on the percentage. I think that it can go up or something. So there is something. I don't know it exactly by heart, but there's no cap on each year. You could do that each year. You know, so there's no cap on the cap. You get what I'm saying? For every year, like there's no cap based on what I read. And then also talking about inclusionary zoning. So that's another piece of legislation that is on its way about if there's development in the city, a certain percentage of those units must be affordable housing, right? So that's another piece of legislation in rent capping that should be hopefully by the end of the year at least talked about and discussed with city council. And then again, remember, I need 6 other people to agree with me. If I don't have that, and I need the community, because my problem is the community says they want something, and then when it's on the table, there's no one that shows up, or it's the same 6 people.
Well, that's the problem that sometimes the city council believe that nobody really cares, and that's why even when I did the FOIA Act, my whole goal was to say people are watching. People always don't know all the systems, and they don't always show up to the meetings. But that's why they elect a Shanae Darby, because you're going to represent them. And I think that we need to make sure that we're always doing what we are supposed to do. But I want to go back to
Hold on. I just want to add something there. The people elected Shanae to represent them, right? But you still have other members on council who were also elected, but they're not doing what the people thought they were going to be doing when they were elected. And that's the sad part of this. You have them pretty much selling their souls, working for Mayor Pizicki and doing whatever he says. And he's taking the recommendations of people who don't even live in the city anymore about raising the prices on things or going back on their words and not really listening to the needs of this city. And that's the sad part of it all.
yeah.
It's a sad part of it all. And right now, here's the thing. In the landlord tenant code and state code, it says that you're only supposed to raise someone's rent one time in a 12-month period. But we know there's landlords out there
Who are doing
it 3-4 times in a year.
Because housing is scarce.
It is.
Right? So if I live in my house, or your landlord might say, you know what, I won't accept no stubs, or I won't check your credit score, you can live here. So then they feel like they can't challenge their landlord because their landlord did them a favor to even get them into a house. And most of the time they holes in the wall, but to at least get them in the house.
They are. The city should bring back pre-rental inspections on every unit. They should crack down on the
bringing it back. It's supposed to happen, but they argue about capacity.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, is it on the books?
It is on the books. Every unit that is new in the city of Wilmington is supposed to get pre-rental inspections, and as they get their business license, it comes with the application for your business license.
No, but if I got it, let's say if I got a license to have an apartment building here or apartment house, and I get it inspected. Okay, let's say I got it, but then next year I have new tenants, and I don't have to get inspected ever again.
Correct. There's no, if you get new tenants, no, that's not a thing. If you sell it to somebody else, that's not a thing either. And also, there are supposed to be some inspections that happen every few years, but they're not even they're barely happening.
But what is the reason for why they're not happening?
They argue
capacity.
What does that mean?
But just like you invest,
my viewers who are watching.
Look, at the end of the day, the mayor sets the budget. The mayor sets where all the money, all the dollars, right, start out in a big pot, and then you allocate it for different departments.
Right.
So if I was mayor, I could say, look, I want to increase this department's budget by 50% or by 120% so that we can hire more inspectors here, right? And not just do the codes when you get do the inspections when you get your business license, but every time you go to put a new tenant in there, guess what? You got to come to the city, let us know, let us go in there and inspect it to make sure that there's basic things. I mean, making sure there's no leaks, making sure there's no bed bugs, making sure it's hot water and stuff like that. You should see these conditions. You should see these conditions.
And what makes this even better is that there's other cities that I have reached out to and brought the city council who are of similar size, so same city, same economic background, Lancaster, PA. Their racial demographics are a little bit different than us, but they share some of the same basic things that we have as a city and what we're going through in regards to housing, right? And they always argue with me because I would bring cities up. They're like, Philadelphia is too big. You can't compare us to Philadelphia. I found a city our size, and they're able to do everything Kobe said. They're able to do pre-rental inspections on every single unit. They also do Airbnbs yearly. They do people with violations every 2 years. And if you're a landlord who isn't, who doesn't have any violations, I think you're every 3 to 4 years. They do the systemic ones and they do the complaint ones, right? They also do like every quarter walkthroughs in certain neighborhoods to provide resources. The L&I department. This is not impossible because the administration would try to make it seem like you're saying something that's unrealistic that can't happen, but it's happening in other cities. That's the frustrating part. And then they come up there with their fake numbers and their fake, oh, we don't have the capacity. They do. It's about allocating the resources you do have, and they're not willing or invested to do that.
Yeah, and I guess if we just end up saying that the poor doesn't
Oh.
matter, people of color.
Under this
So
administration, they don't.
to live.
And most of them don't live in Wilmington.
You mean the administration?
The administration.
Wow.
Of course, the mayor, but the rest of them on his team don't live in Wilmington. His chief of staff lives in Claymont.
Mm.
And she thinks we're all criminals for getting parking tickets.
For those of you who are watching us
Over.
again, I'm always mesmerized, and this is why I think the show is so good, is because you got two perspectives. You got me who really try to act like I'm in the audience asking the questions to really get some more answers, because until you, and let me just say this to all of you, my phone rings every week and people are sharing the concerns they have, and the problem is you don't have the right representation, and we have to start moving by the vote. You're going to have to vote people out. And this is what the problem is, Sister Shanae. The problem, in my opinion, is that the politicians who are in, they effectively give the right chicken dinners to the right people who can keep them in office.
It's not even them giving the chicken dinners. It was the mayor who had to take a bunch of them over the finish line, especially in the 5th district.
Yeah. Okay.
And now they feel some type of loyalty.
Right? Well, that's how it was with Trump. All you gotta do is look at the whole.
I talk to most of the city council people. Most of them are like, "But the administration, I don't care about what the administration think. What do you think?"
Okay.
There's 2 separate parts of government here in the city of Wilmington.
Yeah, should be 3.
You have city council and you have the mayor's administration. It's supposed to be a checks and balance. Yes, you should work with the mayor, right?
Yes.
You should move the city forward.
Yes.
Yeah, you should.
But when they do something wrong, or when they do something not in the best interest of your community, you're there to speak up.
Yeah, it's going to take a catastrophe to happen for people to be shook up, because it's just unbelievable how complacent and calm they are, and comfortable, shall I say.
What is it going to take? We have record number of people on the streets now. We have a record number of gun violence over the last 7 years. We have a record number of families that have been broken up. We have a shortage of affordable housing in the city, with prices going up, with the city of Wilmington having one of the highest jumps in the entire nation, not on the East Coast, not in this region, but in the entire nation. That's not the type of news we should be making. But then you come and have your deputy chief of staff for communications spin a story to some of his friends to write, "Oh, Wilmington's the best small city to come visit."
Yeah, but until a real investigation is done on the city of Wilmington, until, let's say, CNN, just use them on NSB on one of those guys, until somebody really do a true investigation with some true facts and expose some people, we're going to continue. And that's what I mean by catastrophe. That's when we are going to, and it's going to be, because we don't have no media here. We don't have any media. I mean, we get certain, like, we try our best to share news. You got the News Journal who share, unless it's something major, they don't really report it like they need to. Some of the things when I'm trying to help people, I even see you can't get the help because people are not afraid to be exposed. Because who are you going to expose them to? Most of the people are in their pocket. So I'm hoping that one of the things that I'm working on, and I can't talk too much about it because people are listening to me, and I do know that, is that we are trying to get some real media here. Or how can we fund a media to be able to have a branch here like they used to? Because Channel 6 used to be right here in the city. With Lauren Wilson, I think her name is. She was one of the correspondents at that time, which means whatever is happening, they're on it. And we don't really have that anymore. So we hope that I think it's going to take something to get the attention so they can get some real investigations to go on. But some of the people who are elected need to really be dealt with. It's just unbelievable. I'm done with that. Anything else before I go to my last topic for the first segment of the source?
No.
Nothing. Well, I just, Wednesday night, I had an opportunity to sit in my comfort of my bedroom and watch Donald Trump on CNN Town Hall. Is it serious?
Oh, he's
Is he
serious. He's serious, and the people in his party still love the ground he walks on. when he said he could, be on what is it, 8th Ave
Yeah,
in New
Fifth Ave.
York, 5th Ave
Uh,
in New York, and shoot someone, and all his supporters would still support him. He's right.
Yeah.
You watched him defend the January 6th rioter.
Oh yeah, it was horrible.
He called the Eugene, the black officer who was seen in the video, called him a thug, right? And here's the thing. He means every word of it. He means every word of it. He still says the election was rigged.
Yeah.
He wouldn't commit to accepting the election results if he lost again, and he was in the general election. He said, he wouldn't, if it was a fair and honest election, he would accept the results.
Right. And that's only if he wins.
Only if he wins.
Yeah. That's sad. This man said some things about even forgiving, or should I say, forgiving all of those on the January 5th who committed all those heinous crimes, and in his policies. It's just unbelievable.
Mhm.
And I didn't know when I first started watching it that CNN will even permit so much, so many Republicans there. And if they weren't Republicans, they had at least voted for him. They declared themselves as independents, but they had voted for him in the last election because everybody asked the question, they voted for him. And they were clapping at some of that stuff. That just gave him energy and fuel.
It did.
I think it was a waste of time.
It was.
I don't know. Then you're hearing that there are black people who like him even more now.
Yep.
Unacceptable. I don't believe that.
I know it. People are tired of Joe Biden. I'm telling you, people are not excited for him. Maybe people in the Democratic Party are, but black people who want something different are not excited for Joe
there's a
Biden.
bigger plan. I think there's a bigger plan. I don't get
We
it.
gotta do
I'm not
something better.
Kobe's into the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
You are into politics. I am not, and I think there's a bigger plan. Joe Biden probably got something up his
I'm
sleeve,
not being
and I
quiet. I don't got nothing
I
nice to
think
say.
he's the only person that can beat Trump right now because anybody else they're gonna find enough on him. They try to find stuff on Joe with his son, but I think Joe Biden is going to be the one who's going to win this election, and I think there's going to be a great surprise at the end of the day.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
it's just sad that we are living in America and we have two options that are terrible.
No, you have many options, but right now I think, but let me just say this
So we're
in
stuck to a
defense,
two-party system.
and let me just in defense of Joe Biden because I was not a great fan of his, but let me just be in defense of him a little bit. He's done more for the black community than any president in the country, including Barack Obama. And I'm just going to be straight with you.
Okay.
And I'm watching what happened during the pandemic, how he has really. Matter of fact, I got angry with Joe because Joe did so much for the poor community that it made some of them lazy. And I think that if anybody should be up roaring and saying Joe Biden is our man, it should be the African American community. He given us way more judges than any other president.
I
He's given us
respect
way
your
more.
opinion. That's it. That's your opinion. I don't believe any of that at all.
But you can't. No, I'm speaking facts. So you have to believe it, but you gotta at least understand
I'm
that.
not rallying behind him.
I didn't take. Did I say rally?
I said African American should, and I'm considered African American.
Yeah, okay, but
I'm
you,
black.
but who you have always been, and I still support you 100% on that, is that you've always been about the facts, and the facts dictate he's done more for us than even our black president. That's the fact.
I'm not a fan of Barack Obama either, so don't let me start. I go down the line on all of them.
Is it true? Is it true? This is a juicy part for those of y'all who are watching. Is it true that the only people you would support are those who are only on the street to give the services that you feel needs to be given,
or would I support?
Be global? No, I'm saying, is it true that the only thing that you will support or persons is that unless they're giving the services that you think they should give, or should we also look at it on a global side and say, you know what, this person weighing it out is not the best of two evils, but have been good to my community, but he has some shortcomings in these areas.
I'm good. Y'all got it. Yeah, y'all got that.
Well,
I
want to always be viewed as being fair.
Yeah, that's good.
And I am not a Joe Biden fan, and that's just the truth. Those of you who know me know I am not. But when I look at what he's done,
we get a better option.
Well, we will get a better option. But his time, we gave every other president two terms, and we don't get to dictate. For all of my seniors who watch us, and for you hear people criticizing older people because he's so old, he ain't too old. His mama died in 94, 95. I forgot how. It's in his genes to live a long time. Okay,
And he probably just aged bad too.
and
So
that,
that make it look worse.
just you try to be in politics and do some of the things.
I will say every president ages
Look at Barack,
tremendously.
look at Bill, look at all of them.
Barack still look young. No, you know, I'm not a fan of him.
Barack
I'm not
was
a
young.
fan of him politically, but he still look good. Okay.
He was young when he got in though.
Very young.
What, like 47? Something like that.
You'll be younger than that.
So you know,
Yeah.
Again, Biden started his
And
term
black
later,
crack. Okay.
and
Okay,
black don't
okay.
crack. We've been under stress for a long time
Not
now.
gonna pump for Barack for looks.
Yeah.
We not doing that.
Okay, yeah, because he looked good. But I will say, what I will say is that I do think that if the option came between Trump and Biden, or really Trump or any Republican at this point, I am still supporting. Now, if another candidate like Barack did come out of nowhere when Hillary was running and he won the people's heart, and the person is doing what we need them to do. But what we often find out, and this is we'll go in this segment, I'll let anybody want to respond. But what we often find out is when you get into these positions, you really can't do so much because you got to deal with a Congress and you got to deal with a Senate. But Joe Biden was able to accomplish stuff that even for Barack.
You know what? I'll like Joe Biden if he forgive all my student loans. If he could get that
But
passed,
people aren't so.
get that
It's
passed.
the Republicans that stopped it.
It's the Republicans who stopped that. Now, some people like have gotten their student loans forgiven now, and more.
No,
have
all,
now.
not some.
Right. So he can only do so much through executive order. The Republican Congress they took him to court on that.
Yeah.
It's still, I think, the battle should be ending soon, but
Yeah,
that is what we're dealing with right now. And for me, was I the biggest Joe Biden supporter in 2020? No.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone who knows me knows I was rocking out with Julian Castro.
Right.
He was the only person talking about things I cared about. Police brutality. He had an entire plan for that. Not in 2020 after George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor. He had that in 2019.
he supported reparations.
He's
Joe Biden
the only one who was talking about reparations. He started the conversation.
My money.
He started the conversation. But I will say this. There has been great strides under this administration, and I think Castro and all the others, that big primary field has pushed him to do more, right? But I will say this, come November, if it's Biden versus Trump, Biden versus DeSantis, Biden versus Tim Scott, Biden versus Nikki Haley, I'm 100% with Biden.
Yeah, and we'll be right back. That was good. And we're back. Well, Shanae, let's see what's going on with Shanae and what in her world now that you've been gone.
Yeah. So I want to give everyone an update on a few things. So one, we know that a FOIA violation happened with City Council with the appointmentship of 3 council people. The first one was Al Mills, Councilmember Mills. That was a violation of FOIA. However, since it was over a year by the time the violation was submitted to the AG Office for Investigation, they said that we could not redo or publicly vote. So that happened.
They didn't say you couldn't. They said that they didn't. They said that that's something they can't address.
That's okay.
But if the city council had integrity, yes, would have did it.
I guess, yeah, that's a good point.
Go ahead.
That's a good point. So then the other 2 seats that we had appointed, which was Council Member Letitia Bracey and then Council Member White, Vincent White, he's the 1st district, and Council Member Letitia Bracey is now at large. The AG office responded back and said that we had to show our vote publicly. What happened previously, as I explained before, after we did the interviews with all of the candidates, we went into executive session. We're supposed to give them a number or a letter, and then we're supposed to go back into the public and vote. You had Councilmember Harley, who was able to get enough votes to say, let's vote here. I don't want to vote in public. She believed that as the same way you go and vote on election day and you go in the booth and that vote is private, she believed that as a public official, she had that same right when we are public officials making public decisions for the community. So it should be public. So I was so excited, the smile on my face, to see them forced to do the right thing. thing warmed my little heart, okay? And I was just sitting there smiling. And literally, I was virtual for most of the meeting that day. I was doing a lot of things, but I made sure I was in person to see it. I got there just in time for them to do the vote again when they went into when they went to the vote for the committee of the whole. So for specifically for Letitia Bracey's seat, the at-large seat, you had about over 10 candidates, and I'm bringing up the list here. And she did win. However, I know that there was another candidate she was hoping and to get the support of a lot of council people.
Yeah, it wasn't the way that Wayne Dobson was on.
Yep, Wayna
Yeah.
Dobson. And she believes she had 7 votes. They lied to her and said that they voted for her or supported her, and they did not.
Yeah.
And most people voted for Letitia Bracey, so she did win. Like she won,
Yeah.
and it was
And
fair.
can I
But
just stop you right there for a second? Because I just want to say people like Wayne, who is a really strong person. I love her dearly, and I say that as a pastor, as a member of the community. And I remember when she was in the midst of doing this, saying that I'm going to go ahead and do it. And I had kind of told her I would stay out of it because I know she has such a strong heart for people. But she said, no, Reverend Curry, I have the support, and I'm going to do what is right.
yeah, when she called me and said she had the support, I knew that that wasn't true.
Yeah, I
Honestly,
did
I knew
too.
that was not true. They had concerns with her being close to President Congo. That was their
Why didn't
concern.
you tell her that?
I don't know, because they're liars.
Oh,
You
okay.
see, we have
Jeez.
unethical,
Isn't that
and that's
kind of
what I'm
hard?
saying. No, I'm being so serious.
Prevaricators.
I
Can we say
already
that word?
told them they're liars, and I already told them they were cowards for when they all voted, wouldn't answer my calls or speak to me and put an amendment for me not to be on my own committee I created. So they're already cowards.
Well,
Now they're liars.
just so I can make sure I'm clear, who voted for Wayna in that so she can see who her friends are and who told her the truth. The first ballot for that one, who voted for her? Because I want to call her and just share with her.
Yeah, so it was Trippy, President Congo and I who voted for her. She only had 2 votes.
Wow.
She only had 2.
And all those other people, and this is the first ballot. This is not the second ballot, the third ballot.
So for her, we only had to vote
Right,
once.
I know. I just want to make sure it's clear because people can spin things their way.
It was 1 vote.
Okay.
And Letitia Bracey was able to get the majority, which is 6.
Okay.
Well, no, that wasn't the majority, but she won. She got the most
majority.
votes.
Yeah.
It is, yeah, 6,
Because y'all were
7.
too short.
Oh yeah, because it wasn't 13 of us at the
Right,
time, right?
okay.
Right. So she needed to at least have the majority of the votes that was the majority of us.
Now, so the 2 people voted for her. One was yourself. The other one was Council President Trippy. Okay. So the other 6 voted for Tisha Bracey, and then you have 2 more that you don't have. Do you know who those other last 2 voted for?
So no, 4. So you can have more than 1 vote. So some people voted more than once.
Okay.
Right. So I know that Wayna wasn't going to win, but I said I'm a woman to my word, so I voted for her.
Woman to your word.
And I also did my second vote for Letitia Bracey.
Okay.
So I did those 2 votes.
Okay.
President Congo just did Wayna.
Right.
Councilmember Oliver did just Justin Wright. Councilmember Harley did just Justin Wright. Councilmember McCoy did just Justin Wright. And then Chris Johnson did just Letitia. Nathan Field did just Letitia. And I can't see. I think some people did. I think he did the Santano guy, Santiano.
Okay.
I don't know. He did that because him and Cabrera, I think, did Santiano. Cabrera put in 3 votes. She did Letitia Bracey, Kathleen Patterson, and Santano, I think, or Santano. I don't even know him. And then Councilmember Mills did Letitia Bracey and Kathleen Patterson.
Wow. Well, there are people who are asking me, why would you do this, Curry? I'm going to tell you why I did it. I did it because it's important that the city council be women and men of their word. 1, you need to be very transparent in what you do. 2, you should not be running the agenda of a mayor. You should be running the agenda of the community that you represent. When you give your word, stand on it. I know things are done in private. I know that we try to work together, but this community is dependent upon people who have integrity and who will stand on what they believe. When Wayna called and was sharing that she was going to do this as a person who really respects her, I wanted to tell her, don't do it. But she was fully confident that she had the support of her sisters. Not so. And I
Um,
hope that they would be very clear when we see this. And I know she's on the show now because I think the Congos have come back to Channel 28. And I know that there have been some conversations, but everybody's moved on. But everybody has not, because the reality of it is what was done there is what is being done all the time. And this is why Councilwoman Darby is running into so much controversy, because they're just people who just running the agenda and carrying the coffee cup of the mayor. And that's just unfair. I'll kind of stay there and
Yeah.
let you finish your report.
Yeah, so the last seat, I was trying to bring up the form here. Here it goes. For the first district seat, Councilmember
Yeah.
White, he did get the most votes. However, for that one, there were 2 rounds of votes in executive session. So in the first round of votes, we had only 3 candidates. So we had Kobe Owens, Vincent White, and then Harold Gray, which was Linda Gray's late husband. In the first round, Councilmember White did win. Councilmember Oliver, Councilmember Harley, Councilmember Fields, Councilmember Cabrera, and Councilmember Spadola all voted for Councilmember White. However, he did not have the majority.
Yeah.
Right? So then we had to do a second round. But in that first round, the people who voted for Gray was President Congo, Chris Johnson, and then Nathan Field. And then for the people who voted for Kobe Owens was myself, Councilmember McCoy, Councilmember Bracy, and then Councilmember Mills.
Mills.
I was shocked.
Yeah.
When I saw that. I didn't expect that at all. So I was shocked. So then we did the second round because we needed someone to have the majority of the votes on council. So we got rid of the lowest voting person, which was Gray. So Kobe was in the second runner. He was the second runner up. So now we had the vote between White and Kobe. So then President Congo switched this vote to Kobe. I stayed with Kobe. Councilmember Oliver, Councilmember Harley, and Councilmember Fields stuck with White. Councilmember McCoy and Councilmember Johnson voted for Kobe. Al Mills went over to vote for Councilmember White. And then you have Cabrera, Spadola, and Bracy. So Bracy switched up. Bracy and Mills both switched up. And they went back to Councilmember White. I don't know what the switch. I don't know how you, in the first round, vote for somebody and then change it for some reason if they're not the eliminated person.
Because they can do that.
And then just change it. Like, what was your reason and why? What made you think in those quick seconds?
He could really win. And that's what and it made it look like, oh my God, this is not good. But I saw something in that too that I'm not happy about, and I know y'all don't like to talk too much, but I'm not happy that Kobe was even given assurances by certain people that he didn't get the outcome neither.
Yeah, I had council people. I'm looking at this form now who said, "Oh, I voted for Kobe," and I was just like,
they just lied. I mean,
okay,
they just prevaricated. But I'm gonna leave it there.
You go ahead and use the big words. They lied.
They prevaricated, straight away from the truth. But that's the politically correct way of saying it. But the reality of it is just outright lack of integrity. If you don't think a person will fit a seat, don't give them the false hopes. Don't give them the false hopes. And also, now it's time to push, and our legislators who are going down to Dover, get the special elections put in so that the community that they are representing can vote. Simple. And now I'm in agreement. Now everybody's for that now. Everybody say, oh yeah, I think that should happen. Okay, now let's make it happen so that if this was to occur again, we can certainly do what we need to do. Yep. I'm sorry we took up all of your time in that one segment, but we got a lot of stuff we're going to have to come back to, all right?
I love it, yeah.
All right, we'll be right back. I'm still shaking my head, but I'm going to move on. Kobe, let's see what's going on with the Kobe Corner. Maybe we can get some highlights here.
Yeah, so I want to start off on a good note. This past Tuesday was School Board Election Day.
Yes.
And why it wasn't high turnout, I want to highlight the races that happened here in Newcastle County. So first is Christina School District. They had 2.95 voter turnout, which is extremely low, of the 122,000 eligible voters in that school district. That means only about 3,600 of them actually came out. In that election, Doug Manley won with 65% of the vote over Christine Gilbert, and Y.F. Liu won with 67% of the vote over Young Peng, who had 32% of the vote. Those two are going to be great on the school
Yeah.
board. Next, going over to Appoquinimink School District.
Okay.
Just last year, they elected their first African American woman to the school board. They had a little higher turnout with 4.45%, and they have now elected their second African American woman. Now, their nominating districts down there are all at large, so you can live anywhere in that area.
Okay, good.
But Toshiba Graham won with 39.2% of the vote. But listen how close it was. She had 970 votes to her second place opponent, Raymond Pekevis, who had 966. She won by 4 votes. Don't let anyone tell you your vote don't matter.
Matters. It matters.
And then in third place was Tim Johns with 537 votes, 21% of the vote. And then swinging back up to what I think was the most contentious one was Red Clay.
Yeah.
It has been the last few years. It's the one I've been involved with the most over the last few years. They have 4.37% turnout, so still a little lower than that historic year in 2021. But Jose Matthews, who was a current school board member, was reelected with 58% of the vote.
Excellent.
Over Coluccio Callio. And Ajay English won with 57% of the vote over John Scully, who had 42% of the vote. So both of those two, Jose will continue to do great work on the school board, and Ajay, I have great faith in her that she's going to do amazing things. She's filling big shoes in Dr. Adriana Bohm, but I'm sure she will live up to it and be a great asset to the Red Clay School Board.
I have a response to Governor what's that man down in Florida?
DeSantis.
You said it for me. I have a response to him. Here's my response to you, Governor. Sleep have been overcome by woke. If that's the way you want to define it, when African Americans get together and they do what they have to do, we always come through very strong. So I'm very glad to hear these results. These results are just phenomenal.
Absolutely. And the turnout has been it hasn't been the great, but turnout is getting better in all those districts. So I'm glad to see that as we continue to get more people involved with school boards, hopefully that turnout continues to grow.
Good.
Because it used to sit at about like 1%.
Yeah.
So it's slowly but surely going. Next, I want to just highlight something real quick. There is the Rose Hill Planetarium, which is right across the street from the Rose Hill Community Center. A developer is trying to come in and make an offer to buy that. They want to turn it into a 3-story storage facility place. And the community has been speaking out against this. I wanted to highlight it on this show. They're going to be having some more community meetings. They had one Wednesday night, and I think they're going to have one next week. I don't know the date and time for it, but stay tuned. Watch out for it on Facebook. People are talking about this.
Wait, before you go any further on that, so the Rose Hill Garden, so what is that currently?
It's a garden, like a greenhouse.
Okay.
But a developer wants to come in and turn it into a storage facility.
Okay. And are they growing anything there, or is just
different plants?
Okay. All right. Okay. Good.
Different plants. So they want to stop this from happening in their community. They like the plantry.
Absolutely.
Next, I want to talk about the 529 plan. On May 25th at the POW, the state treasurer, along with Fidelity, the Urban League, the NAACP, and a few other groups are going to be hosting an event to learn more about the 529 plans that was launched here in the state. If you sign up before the end of June 2023, you will get a $100 match from Fidelity when you open that account. That's an educational savings account that goes towards your child's or grandchild's education fund for college, or if they want to go to like trade school once they hit 18. And the last thing I wanted to talk about today, because I know we're short on time, but again, we touched on it a little bit earlier, and that was affordable housing here in Delaware.
Yeah.
We are in a position right now to really start looking at it in a holistic way and addressing it in that manner as well too. Just last week there was a bill introduced that will address the realty transfer tax, right? And what it will do, it's two bills, and it would make it an effort to develop more affordable housing here in the state. Like I said, we're almost at 20,000 units in the whole when it comes to addressing the need of affordable housing here in the state of Delaware. Russ Hustable, who used to work with the Milford Housing Authority, he's the new senator from down like Lewis, Rehoboth area. He's introduced these bills that exempt property sales. The state code currently exempts property sales to affordable housing developers if developers are restoring an existing home. This bill would do the same for sales of affordable housing developers for new construction as well too. That is going to be huge in incentivizing developers to build more affordable housing here in the state, hopefully. Nothing is a 100% guarantee, but hopefully it will be a benefit for them.
Okay, good stuff.
But that's all I had today that I really would. I know I had to rapid fire. But that's all I have. So I think again, as we continue on this path, here in the first state, the number one issue that you can go into almost any community in here is the affordability of housing right now in the state, and we're only seeing increases all across the board.
Right. And while we have about 2 minutes left on Kobe's time, do you want to say anything about the city council budget update, or are you not prepared to do that?
I don't know if it's gonna take me 2 minutes, but we could
take more?
definitely. Yeah, I feel like it's gonna take more.
Okay.
The water from the parking, the fees and fines. So next week.
Next week we're gonna put the.
So I'll say this real quick on that
Okay.
part. There has been a bill introduced in which the mayor put out a statement and Councilwoman Maria Cabrera put out a statement that it was going to come down to $25 for
Correct.
tickets. In this bill that they've put out and that they're pushing for right now, it's $30.
And they get rid of the early payment option. So now if you pay your bill early, your parking ticket, they usually take like $10 off, I think. They're taking that away and then upping it to $30.
Wow.
So again, this
They
is
lied.
the mayor and Maria Cabrera putting out
Is she
statements.
running for mayor?
No, she's not running
I mean,
for mayor. She's going to run for re-election probably.
and then try to run after he tries to. Oh.
But, you know, you should hold these elected officials accountable for their word.
When Maria first came on the scene, she was a really kind person.
She
And
was.
she was really for this community. I mean,
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know what's going on. Maria, I have no disparity against you, but I think you need to defend yourself. You may need to come on the Coffee with Curry and explain some of the stuff.
And she will come.
Well, but I'm not a friendly host when it comes down to getting to the facts. And some of the things I'm hearing and
Yeah,
her
that's
alignment and her alignment with the mayor is just really toxic. It just seems to be very toxic to me. I don't know. Okay. Okay. Well, listen, we had an opportunity to have a good show today. I'm still stuck on that Hirsch segment because I'm still trying to figure out why those people just have to prevaricate.
Yeah.
Just tell the truth and be transparent. And sometimes we don't always agree. Just like, you and I just disagreed on Biden. It's all right to disagree, but I should not be a fake, and you should not be a fake. You should not be who you're not in order to appease other people or to try to win certain people. But I do understand the mayor has the budget, and if they want the nickels and dimes he give them, they're going to have to do what he say do. So it is what it is. Kobe, you got anything else on your plate today?
That's all I have.
You have anything else on your plate today?
Nothing at all.
Well, let me just say thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today. This has been my true pleasure. We're coming back next week. And when we come back next week, we got some more stuff for you. And we hope and trust that you will watch us. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owen.
Sinead Darby.
See ya.
Take care, y'all.
Talk soon.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Source. Be sure to tune in next Sunday at 5 p.m.